Okay, friends, so we got to watch a very nice info-packed day of connectedness with the doTERRA stuff. The two main focuses were on pursuing pure business practices and pursuing relief. And Marcella's going to give you a little overview of like how of some of the main things that were presented, and then we're going to have a couple of people pop in and tell us more succinctly about something that impacted them from listening to it. So Marcella's going to start.
All right, I'm going to try to be quick so I give people more time to talk. So the morning session, like Amanda said, was about pursuing pure business practices. And so it started with Emily discussing their pure business practices, and she's used words like ethical sourcing, and the phrase that was repeated a couple of times was sourcing the best and helping the most. And one of the things that touched me that Emily said was that like the farmers come first. If the business is not good for the farmers, how could it be good for us? So I thought that was really like just the heart of doTERRA. Like it's not just about getting the best oils, it's about making sure that they have the best life too. Then Corey Lindley talked about just why they do things the way they do things. So one thing that he mentioned was that like lavender, if they wanted to source the lavender themselves and grow it themselves, they would need like 3,000 acres, which is a lot of land, but doable. And then they would only need like 3 to 5 people to actually work the land. But instead, they choose to help people on the other side, the farmers. And instead, they use small-scale farmers that then impact a lot more lives. So I thought that, again, was super just wonderful about the whole company.
Yesterday, he was also the one who mentioned the fact that like to get what's really pure is not the cheapest. Mm-hmm. And it's not the cheapest to have all these small-scale farmers, but it's the right thing, and it's what doTERRA really stands behind, because it's not only about sourcing the best, but it's also about helping the most. Mm-hmm. And so spreading that, instead of that 3 to 5 farmers, spreading it to so many other people, which includes like shipping issues and testing issues to keep things CPG, and all of that it was really, really moving. So I'm not. Yeah, like 2,000 people instead of 3 to 5 people. Yeah, so I know we're not supposed to be jumping in yet, but it was just so much on my heart. I'm like, and this.
It was all great. Then Emily was with Tim. I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name right now.
Valentino.
But yeah, Valentino. And then George, the guy from Haiti, and she talked all about the CoImpact sourcing in Haiti, which I won't get into the details of that because someone else is going to talk about that. And then Kirk Jowers and Tim and Vishnu were talking some more about the sourcing. But what really touched me about that was, I think it was Vishnu who said that with so many people that are farmers in the world, that they need sources for farming and to provide for their families. They need something else to do, because mostly they just do subsistency crops, but doTERRA is giving them the opportunity to do cash crops, which then means that they can provide for their families and maybe send their kids to school and maybe actually have a home that's secure and safe. So that was very, very touching. Then the afternoon session was all about relief, pursuing relief. So it started with Paul Winterton, who did a really cool, like, kind of fun talk about just our reaction and how we need to manage our reaction to pain and to get us in a better place. He defined self-efficacy, which we'll talk about in a minute. Then Kristen Perdue did a big nutritional talk, which is really fun. Then Dr. Hill got deep dive into Deep Blue. And Emily talked about helichrysum, which was a fun talk. Then there was a panel with Doris Martell, David Hawkins, and Tim Hightower, which all, like Tim Hightower, some of you guys know who he is. But just about how they use those products, which the common thread with that was Deep Blue and copaiba together seemed to be the trick. And who else? And then there was a panel at the end. I think I'm missing somebody. Oh, there's a couple of people that talked about the copaiba and the turmeric caps and the Deep Blue polyphenol caps. So, and then there was a panel at the end. So that's the highlights of what happened today. But we're going to try to run back a second to Paul Winterton and his little talk about self-efficacy. So he defined self-efficacy as fostering the confidence in oneself and our intrinsic natural capacity to manage situations. So he was kind of getting to the idea that we can be taught to manage our situations and to get ourselves into a better, like to heal ourselves. So I was going to share his video, it's about 2 minutes, a little fun portion that he talked about, if I can find it.
I love the idea that you don't have to be a doctor to be able to kind of, you know, figure out some ways to help yourself.
Give me a second, guys. Sorry, I'm just trying to get to the right place. Okay.
This is the philosophy and solution trajectory espoused by my beloved American Academy of Orthopedic Surgery. Most recently, in 2017, the value of integrative, supportive use of essential oils was strongly promoted by the American Academy of Orthopedic Surgery in a paper published in the Journal of Bone and Joint Surgery, the greatest medical journal of all time. Specific protocols used as complementary solutions were formally endorsed as standard of care. Isn't that remarkable? Isn't that fabulous? For years, we've enjoyed protocols designed to provide relief that are pillars of Western allopathic medicine. Now, included within these FDA-approved pillars exist supportive, complementary modalities promoted by our most revered medical societies worldwide. Isn't that spectacular and exciting? Any other medical society or vertically integrated healthcare institution that doesn't adopt an integrative approach to discomfort management in a multidisciplinary way is derelict in its responsibilities to the patients they care for. That's a fact. Of course, pharmaceutical strategies will forever be part of our multidisciplinary approach. However, cognitive and mental strategies, as well as physical strategies employing supportive essential oils, will likewise include clinically proven modalities, such as guided imagery, meditation, Reiki, massage, and not the least of which, aromatherapy, or the clinical application of essential oils. The connection between discomfort and our emotional well-being is...
Yeah, so I thought that was pretty awesome to have it, you know, right there from people who are really in the field to say, people like these days, because there is enough research and there is enough scientific evidence of the efficacy of the essential oils, people would be derelict to not include them as part of the complementary care. So I think that's pretty awesome. I feel like we should have some friends start sharing. Do you want to go first, Vera?
Sure.
Okay, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Veronica. I am very happy to be here. This is the first convention that I have ever attended with doTERRA, so I'm very excited. I was excited to hear the stories, and one of my favorite things, one of my favorite takeaways from today was the talk about synergy and how they emphasize how some of the blends, like the reason they are so powerful, it's because sometimes when you combine oils, it just enhances the power of that particular combination. And I just thought it was so interesting. And I made the connection that actually it's like in life, when we are working towards a goal and we combine different things. So for example, if I'm committed, you know, to heal something, either in my body, my mind, or my emotions, and I combine different practices, including the oils, it's more likely that I'm going to have an effective outcome. It's just so powerful, and I really enjoy hearing that, because before then I didn't really know, you know, like why some specific blend or some specific chemistry was so important when talking about oils. So yeah, that was my favorite takeaway from today, and I really have enjoyed just being part of this.
Thank you, Leah.
Yeah.
All right, Natalia, can you come share? Natalia's going to talk about one of the topics that I actually like. I may maybe jump in here and there if we don't both start crying, because it's one of my favorites too.
All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the origins of the CoImpact Sourcing. They were talking about what gave them the idea to start CoImpact Sourcing, and that was back in 2016 on their first trip to Haiti. And they were just gathered around with all of the locals, and the locals were all sharing dreams. And one man stood up and said that his dream was to someday have access to clean water that wouldn't make his family sick. And that was that moment when the doTERRA founders just kind of said, we've got to do better. Just getting the best soils isn't enough if these people don't even have basic things like clean water for their families. And we have to find a way to give that and more to them. And I've been involved with other, network marketing business models in the past, and I've always had to part ways with them because their ethical standards just didn't match my own. And I feel so blessed and relieved to finally be part of a company that puts ethics first and people first and business practices and purity first. And it just makes me want to share with everybody. And
yeah, I guess like standard would be, okay, give some good money to the farmers, or like make sure that, it's like a favorable environment, that we're not mishandling them, and even, going above and beyond to do a higher rate. But to take extra money, charity money, like that, they don't have to spend any of this at all, and make a well that offers clean sourced water.
6 wells.
6 wells. That's right. It was 6 locations in that area. Yeah, that's like around the area where the people are harvesting the vetiver. That is just 3-hour walk otherwise. Yeah. So I just and then we also got to see, not like that's Haiti, and so it's kind of glanced into some other stuff, but he talked a lot about other CoImpact Sourcing locations that they also do where they have full medical centers, some of them that service over I think 28,000 people. The one that is down in India, I can't remember like all my details, I didn't write everything down, but like medical centers where like there isn't another hospital around, like except the one that doTERRA built, and and they send medical equipment there and stuff like that. Schools that are earthquake proof in Nepal, around the Nepalese winter grain harvesting, CoImpact Sourcing locations. So like the Haiti one, we're crying over, which I'm sure she'll talk a little bit more about. But it's not the only one. And so like the whole idea of sourcing the best and helping the most just keeps coming up, that they're doing more than just getting awesome oils. Right. So yeah. So Emily shed a few tears. Do you want to share about that?
When she was telling us about the story, when she got to that part where that man said, clean water, it seemed like she could barely get the rest of the story out. She actually had to pull a tissue out and wipe away her tears. But yes, I'm not sure I have anything else to add right now.
Yeah, for her, it was the fact that she feels so connected to each particular person, and the way they have it designed is those like 34 locations where they do the CoImpact Sourcing. They have a one special like go-between that they is like they're like doTERRA representative. I mean, they have more than just that, but in each location. So we got to see one guy named George. And he's actually been trapped in Haiti. I say trapped because he's Canadian, and so he can't go back and see his wife and family
Since December.
Because of COVID. So sad stuff. But but when the earthquake happened in Haiti this past year, George, like when doTERRA called up George and were like, what can we do to help our buddies, our CoImpact Sourcing friends there? And he knew each one of them by name, knew how many family members they had, who lived the closest to the epicenter, all of the things, and was able to like make sure that they're all okay. And what's really neat about that, I mean, that's what started Emily crying, was to be like, you know, just to have that connection with the people, and to feel like doTERRA is partnering with people, not with like, you know, like the industry that happens to be in a city, you know, whatever. It's very personal, and it's very farmer focused, farmer first, and so just really neat. Okay, cool. Anything else you want to share? I don't think so. Okay. Opa, do you want to come over and say what's up? Or actually, Melissa, you look like you're available. Do you want to pop over? I can't find them. But that's okay. Do you want to go first?
Oh no, it's fine.
So I was pretty impressed with all of the cool information that was provided by both Dr. Hill and one of the other doctors whose name escapes me, talking about the copaiba and all of the uses and how it works, and the endocannabinoid system, and that high level of the beta-caryophyllene that's in there is really what's working on those receptors. But that because it's working on the whole system, it's taking care of pain, it's taking care of inflammation, it's taking care of anxiety, and even the bonus effect of the enhancing the use or the reactions of the other chemicals in the things like deep blue. So you can layer them, and then it enhances those effects. So, you know, they're talking about taking them in conjunction, and then having them in the soft gel, so you can take them internally, making it very convenient, or under the tongue, or even topically, so that you can layer them, which is pretty cool. But I'm a huge fan of the copaiba anyway, so my ears really perked up when they were talking about all the systems and how it affects each one of them. And, you know, they didn't get into it this time, but previously had talked about the comparison, because that endocannabinoid system is the same stuff that the CBD oils are working on, but because there's a total different, like, they're not very regulated, and there's no testing done to make sure it's standardized, and that there's no THC, so that there's other things that are going on there that doTERRA didn't want to get involved with. And so they just kind of omitted that today, but it was nice to see all the research that was done on it, and all the systems that it worked on, and how it was working on the receptors, and that, again, talking about the synergy and how it's working together. It was really cool.
And they also stressed, you know, because of that synergy, like the fact that if you're having like a more consistent pain, that using it consistently is more important than only using it episodically. If it's something that's, you know, like kind of a longer term issue that you've had with your shoulder for years and years, then doing the approach where you're using it 3 times a day consistently until you feel like you can take out one of those application times or something, is going to have a much bigger impact, because of how it affects the endocannabinoid system and things like that. So like, it's kind of just showing why it's important to be consistent with it, versus just, you know, waiting until it's excruciating pain and slapping it on once. It's not going to be quite as useful in that case.
Oh yes. Yeah. So, I mean, and then the differences that he was giving between taking something internally and how you would want to do that, sometimes as preventative, like if you know that you have general aches and pains, that you can kind of help get in front of that kind of discomfort and inflammation. Whereas, you know, you shouldn't be afraid to use it, you know, even if you're taking it internally as an additional topical, if you have some type of, you know, immediate or acute symptom in a location on your body. It's, you know, because it's very hard to overdose on something like that when you're using it properly.
Okay.
We'll slide out.
Yes. Why don't you come and share what your topic was? Rick.
All right. So in the wellness section, we were talking about deep blue, and deep blue has multiple different modalities that you can use to take advantage of it. And and so they sort of went into what is the difference between it. So because you have the deep blue rub and the roll on, and those are more for areas, specific areas where you are having pain. You can roll it on your elbow or rub it into your knee or in your spine, in the back, or wherever you're having pain, you can do that. Then they have these polyphenol tabs, and those are more for the systematic, your whole body. You take that on a regular basis to make your body handle the inflammation that can come on a daily basis, or even if something comes up, your body already has that in its system, ready to handle it. It has everything available to it. So the polyphenols, the tablets, are something that you should have on a regular basis. And then when you have something, so you're running and your knees are sore, you can put that on your knees, or you have some shoulder problems, you've got something you can put on locally. And sort of they mentioned it both for deep blue and for copaiba, was that if you have something just come up, you can certainly put it on your shoulder right away. But if you are playing basketball or something, or baseball, and you're just really working that shoulder all the time, you ought to put this on a regular basis, even when you aren't playing or something like that. Just go ahead and take it, just to keep the different septoterpenes or whatever in all around there all the time, so that when you start.
And it was also interesting. One of the other people who was speaking also said, like, if you're mostly using it the way that you would other pharmaceuticals, say like when you have some head tension come up, or if you're struggling with some lower abdominal pain during certain times of the month, or like when you would normally reach for something that's a pharmaceutical, those deep blue polyphenol complex tablets or capsules are really like a really great go-to for those kinds of situations as well. Cool. Okay. Good. And then what else do you have? Something else to read? Can I talk about the chiropractor? They had this really cool story about a family who the son was in a horse riding accident, and his skull was crushed, and was in the hospital for I don't know how long. He lost full capacity on his left side. He was like pretty much paralyzed on one whole side. It affected his speech as well, where he couldn't speak for a really long time. And although they were not specific in the video about what they used to help him, they did show using some frankincense on him and things like that. But they never, verbally said what all happened. But we got to see, fast forward 8 years, and here he is. He's this 17-year-old who's riding in these competitions on horse again, and just looking so healthy and functional and things like that. And so that was a neat thing. Just I love hearing about people who are like, where their whole life is totally affected on the the emotional, the physical, and even like, thinking if your child's going to survive at all, and then to really be able to have some extra tools and resources to use during that time, just really, it's inspiring, makes me happy. Do you want to share a little bit about helichrysum? I think Emily and helichrysum would be probably like the last thing we want to do before we jump off. Or did you have something else?
No, I just wanted to see the notes. So helichrysum, yeah, Emily talked about helichrysum, which every time Emily talks about an oil, it's like we have to buy it. So she just mentioned a few things about it, which there was something about it being part of another family that had similar properties, but it was unique because it had diones.
That's right, diones, yeah.
So that was kind of interesting. But what was interesting was her little suggested use of that she layers it with Siberian fir and wintergreen. I just jotted that down because I really love black spruce and wintergreen. So I was like, see, I'm not crazy. You can put a wintergreen with another pine and it works great. But she had an interesting story of how helichrysum helped her heal an injury that she had with her husband. I won't spoil the whole story so you guys can listen to it. But yeah, her husband caused her a little injury on her leg, and helichrysum was her hero oil for that injury. So it's so neat to be able to have it a lot more price affordable now with the helichrysum touch. So,
which we just gave you a little bit of a sneak preview for tomorrow when you'll hear about the product reveal. We're going to do a little recap for some of those things. And yeah, so now you know the helichrysum touch is available, which makes it an easier price point, and hopefully gets into more of our homes to be able to make more of a difference. So that's fun. Cool. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and stop recording. As far as I know, I was actually hoping that Marie might pop on so that we could have her share some of her stuff, but I think she has some other things going on tonight, so we won't do that, unfortunately. But